Good morning. It is Thursday morning, and it is, let's see, what time is it? 9:07 a.m. to be exact. Okay, so I am going to start off a artist tutorial, and pardon my pumpkin spice latte autumnal video in the background. I wanted to basically get the vibe of coolness and fall season. I am sure you guys are blazing out there in the East Coast, and for some reason we're cooling off here in the West Coast, especially Chula Vista, California, where it's like 74 degrees and in the 60s in the evening. So yeah, it's kind of weird, right? But most likely after Comic-Con, it gets a little bit hotter. But forecasting the season and AccuWeather, it looks like we're going to totally skip summer this season for some reason here in the South, San Diego. And I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it, okay? And I really apologize if I'm just like basking in the breezy, cool conditions here. I do love a little fan motion in my house. Like I have to have the fan on to just feel the air movement to get the stale out. You know what I mean? And when you cook and all that stuff, it's kind of like, it's kind of hot and humid. So after I do cook breakfast, I do like to do that. But I digress. How are you guys doing? I hope you are well. Thank you for watching the last video. I forgot what was it? What was it actually? Really? For some reason, I'm getting Target and Meow Mix ads on my feed. But anyways, the last video that I uploaded was a very good one, was van life, how I create in van life. And then the other one is, let's see if I could do it live here. Oh, this one was a day ago, which was character profiles. And this is how I created my character profiles. And that one was really great, but the van life one was better, if that makes sense. So if you haven't subscribed lately, please subscribe to my channel. I know I have a glare on my face right there. Hold on. Just figured out that's my light. That's my new horizontal light. Anyways, anywho, I'm going to leave that going, but I am going to do one of the first tutorials that I've ever done, like, was a drawing tutorial of Merida, and that got pretty good views, about 20,000 views. And I'm going to do something very similar to that, to the effect that the tools that I use to create my videos. And those tools are these wooden figures that I had for my students. And these came in handy because, so basically, in order for you to create something on digital format, you need to learn how to draw them out. And every artist has their way. You don't have to do it my way, but I've noticed, like, for example, my students have a particular drawing, and maybe that's how their mind is set. Maybe that's how visually, that's how they see things, in terms of, the visual body, or how the mind connects to the hands. And if your mind and hand coordination is different from somebody whose mind and hand coordination is more detailed and more refined, you're going to find students that have their own style, and everyone is different. You may see it a different way. You may see something anatomically that is different, because when you see a skeleton, the skeletons all are very different, very different. And but they have the skull, they have the clavicle, and I'm going into anatomy here, the rib cage, the hips, the the knee, the patella, a lot of the joints on the ankle and the wrist. Those are basic in a skeleton. All right. I don't have a skeleton with me, but maybe in the next video, I'll have a skeleton to refer to what I'm talking about. But instead of a skeleton, I do have actually these wooden sculptures or figures. You could get this at IKEA. I got this at IKEA a long time ago. And so basically, these wooden figures helped my students uh, draw out their bodies of the characters that they were building. So I had 3 of these because I had like 3 tables, and there was like maybe 10 to 12 students per table, and they would look at it and they would see how the anatomy of these figures could help them build their characters in terms of, the torso, the hip area, the thighs, the calves, and the feet, and up to the arms, where the shoulder is, the elbow joints and the wrist joint, and then the neck articulation, the skull, and how the different poses are in terms of, like, how you would stylize the movement of the still of your character, whether it be walking, running, leaping, doing the splits, sort of like, a ballerina that would extend her arms, or an athlete that would run or leap or jump. So these forms are really important, and again, you can get them at IKEA or any art shop, wherever, or online. Hello, Amazon Prime, or Amazon, or Walmart. I don't think Target has it, but maybe Michael's, Hobby Lobby. But also, I use this for my tablet glove. When I use my iPad and I use Procreate, I use that. The hand is also important feature when you're drawing out hands. Like, for example, my superhero characters, I would want to have the hands very anatomically detailed when it comes to close-ups or things like that. So, if I'm putting my character's face with the hand, and it shouldn't be so detailed like your own hand. Like, I have wrinkles on these fingers here, right here at the joints, at the knuckles, and I have veins and things like that. You would probably put those details in there, but for a basic cartoon character, I wouldn't include that so much when it comes to like a distant pose. But a close-up one, yes, you would probably include all of those. The nail bed, like this one has a nail bed on it, and then it has all the joints, the metatarsal joints, so we call them metatarsal, and the thumb. And if you look at your own thumb, my thumb isn't as long as this, and it kind of bends to, this one is totally straight. So this is a real thumb right here versus this wooden sculpture. I mean, I am so jealous if you have hands like this. My hands are, I'm of age, and you could tell. Usually, when you look at somebody, you always look at the hands and you know exactly, oh my gosh, that person is an older person because they've got, all kinds of sunspots from years of being out in the sun, or just wrinkles, or just hand movements. I was a surgical technologist, and I had to wash my hands constantly before surgery. And I was the first assist when it comes to surgical technicians. We're the first assists of every surgeon. We prepare all of the medical equipment, make sure it's sterile. We couldn't break out of sterility. We had to wash our hands with a special, sometimes iodine, and sometimes a special solution, soap and water, and then scrub it down. We had this specialized scrub to scrub into the nail bed to make sure all the bacteria is out. And then I had to put on these sterile gloves. And that was for 18 years. And just imagine, even surgeons, their hands are just so, uh, it's, you're using your hands constantly. And when it's wrapped with plastic, latex, or non-latex surgical gloves, and you're deep in the body of whatever patient you have for all those years, you're constantly using your fingers, and mechanics, and not only surgical techs, nurses, people that use their hands in detail, sculpturists, welders. Anybody who uses their hands will have that workforce hand, right? And I see that artists always, of every kind of older age group, you will see the age or the environmental climate effect of UV rays that happen in discoloration of the hands. People, especially people that work outdoors constantly under the sun. And you'll see that when you have heat and the UV rays upon your skin, that's why you have to wear sunblock and things like that. So those are the kind of features that I see in detail for, like, if you're drawing someone in advanced drawing, you would notice those details. But if you're looking into forming your body at a distance, you wouldn't notice those things. You would notice more of the basic structure of the anatomical figure, whether it be a young person, like a child, or a middle-aged adult, or a senior citizen. So depending on your age and what, uh, this is a female or a male, you would put those features in. But you start off with the basic figure, like so. And I definitely wanted to show and share with you the reason why I did that is featuring anatomical structure of a art piece, especially human like this. I use the same basic shapes of an anatomical shape, like a stick figure. So seriously, this is a young lady, teenager, ballet dancer, very flexible, raising her legs like a splits, balancing her entire torso, lifting her leg into a split, and then waving her arms like a bird, basically. And for females that are professional dancers like that, you will see them. It's so beautiful, especially ballerinas, and they're out on the stage. And if you've watched ballerina show, ballet show, or any kind of musical, and they're dancing, it's just so beautiful to see their bodies do things that not a normal person can do. So I created these graphs here. It's basically just a, a graph starting off with a plus sign. And then I created this little graph. So if you get like graph paper, I'm sure you can recreate something like this, but this is on a larger scale. So I start off with, and let me bring this camera down so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, let me see, what pen should I use? I guess I'll break out my specialized mechanical pencil here. Oh, I have extra refills here. And this is a 0.7 mechanical pencil. And I hope that you can see what I'm drawing here and hear me. I did bring my pen out, so okay, so I start off with a piece of paper and I draw out a basic plus sign. All right, and then because in the very middle of the figure here is, you know, this is very top, maybe a quarter up is the belly button, and then this is the hip right here, your hip bone. Very similar to this piece here. So you got, you know, you probably have the belly button right here, and this is just where it just breaks at the waistline. So the waistline right here. Okay, and so I just draw a plus like that, equal parts, right angles, like a piece of pizza or pie. And then I basically draw like another square on the outer perimeter, and then like so. And then I divide this in half, the top and the bottom of each side. And then I do it again. And so that's vertical, and then it's horizontal when you do left to right or right to left. And then vertical is up and down and up. Okay, so then I have a series of boxes, and within these inner boxes I also divide it, but with a very light line or dash line like that, so I know that's the center of that inner, and it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so that's what I also do a half of, very light line. So looking at this right here, I basically, and let me get another pen so you can see what I'm doing here. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? I hope so. Okay, so then I would basically take the waistline right here, and I'm just gonna heavy draw it right in the middle. That's my waistline. Okay, and then again here I would probably draw another horizontal line on the same inner square, just as an example of what I'm doing here. I hope you understand that. So I half it all the way down from the top of the big square in the middle, and then I do the same thing if you were to flip it over on the other side, on the opposite side, if you could see that. Let me make it a little bit stronger of a line so you can see. Okay, it just makes sense when I do it that way. I hope it helps. And so I can also put top and bottom here. And then this is my left and my right. Okay. So you got dash lines on the inner square and then dash lines on the horizontal portion of it. Okay, now you see it right in the middle of the huge square. So this one is the huge square. Right in the middle of that. Right here, X marks the spot. Right there is your waistline. And so what I do is right where it hits that dash line, see why I make that? Right where it hits that dash line, I'm going to figure out, is this going to be a female or a male? So females have more of a wider hip than a male. So I can increase the waistline or decrease it. I just wanted to mark it that that was the width of the waistline that I'm making. So I'm going to make it slightly wider on the lower uh, half here and then make that line. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? You're going to erase and perfect, erase and perfect. And then I'm going to connect those two. So it kind of makes like, you know, a triangle without the tip, the top. Okay, then what I'm going to do is right here at the very top, right here, is going to be my shoulder line right here. So it depends again how wide you want it. And I'm just going to do it at the half mark. And then right above this waistline, I'm going to go up a little bit and make another line and connect those two like so. And then depending on how long I want the neck, you know, I'm just going to mark it like so with a small stick. And again, you're going to erase all of this. Then over here is where the hip is going to be. And I like to put like a half circle. So it looks like a bikini bottom or underwear. And then I notice right here, this is where my hip and my thigh would go, but I want to drop it down because I don't want the knees to be so high. So I'm going to also split this in half and then in a quarter. And I'm going to determine where my kneecap is, my patella is going to be. It's not going to be here. No, it's not going to be here. Yeah, maybe there. I like that. At the quarter mark right here. So I'm just going to draw a line halfway or a quarter down. So the boxes are really important just to share with you how I'm creating this. So I made the line from the bottom of the hip down here all the way to the bottom line. And then I'm going to just draw a faint circle to show you where my kneecap is. I'm going to put it right in the middle of that box. Okay, and you can always rewind this if you're lost. Okay, so the ankle, of course, is going to be down here somewhere. So you can already see where this is going to connect. So somewhere here in the middle of this half circle, I'm going to draw where the hip bone is. So you should have 3 dots on both sides. And then I'm going to connect it, and I'm going to use a different color to connect ease. Okay. And I'm going to do the same with the shoulder. I'm going to make a half circle to determine the shoulder blade. And then somewhere on this dash line right here is going to be my elbow. I probably might make it a little bit lower, so I'm going to just make a faint line here. That's where my elbow is going to be. Right where that dash is, see, that's equal. That's a halfway point between this box here, and then this line is going to be where my elbow is. Okay, and I'm going to determine where my elbow is going to go, maybe over here somewhere. So I'm just going to pick an area on this line, this faint line that I made, where my elbow is going to be. So I pick that line. And then my forearm is going to drop down somewhere here, and the wrist is going to go probably right in between. Like, just imagine there's another line right here. That's where my wrist is going to be. So I'm going to make another halfway line here. This is just so that you are equal. Just right off the hip, like so. And so you're going to connect this shoulder with this elbow and this wrist. So those three little dots on the opposite side of the torso. Again, I'm going to use, let's see if I can use green maybe, or purple. Do I have green? I don't know if this is green or not. Okay, so here we go. Yes, it's green. So that's what it looks like. Okay, and then somewhere up here, I'm going to just draw a head, an oval. And then I'm going to thicken up that neck with two slightly curved lines on the side, bowed lines on the side for the neck and the oval. And again, the oval is also, there's a plus. Okay, so now I'm going to put the features on this character just like this by outlining where the connecting tissues or the skin is going to form your whole body. So basically what I do is I go outside that line and I just curve where there's a right angle, curve. And the arms, the upper arms are a little bit more thicker than the forearms. So you're just going to curve. And with the hands, I usually make like a triangle. So curve, and this looks like a very broad-shouldered male. And you're just going to curve on the outside of that torso. Also with the hips, curve it, and then connect the knee. And then right here where the bottom of the crotch is, you're just going to do a U and then curve towards the knee, but you're tapering it off. And then at the knee, you're going to curve out and in, just like a drumstick. We say that, drumstick. And taper it off at the ankle. And then again, I use like a they look like duck feet. So see how I basically curved those hard lines, and I don't have I can't erase this because I did a Sharpie, but you're just basically going to curve it out where the straight line is, curve it out, taper it in at the joints, curve it out, taper it in, triangle right here again at the waistline, curve it out, taper it in at the knee joint, curve it out, taper it in at the ankle, and little duck feet. And at the crotch in the middle here, you're going to make a U and then curve it out, inward tapered knee, outward to the ankle, and duck feet, triangle. Same thing with this. Again, the shoulder and the arm, the upper arm, the biceps are curved out more, and it's more thicker. You'll see that this is a little bit shorter, and you're going to come out and you're going to come in, out and in like a drumstick. The neck, that line, you're going to create another outer line and curve it in for the shoulder. And again, this is just a basic way on how we create the body. And then you're going to erase and perfect, erase the inside, erase those little circles, and then you're going to get your body. But then you're going to form it, and you're going to perfect it, and you're going to erase it, and you're going to move in or out those shoulders. Maybe it's too broad, maybe you want to make it a little bit shorter. Maybe start off with the shoulder line a little bit more narrow, start all over again, do those little boxes. Start off with the shoulder line just a little bit more narrow so you won't get a broad shoulder. Maybe she's a superhero. Maybe she works out. Maybe it's a guy. Maybe it's a teenager male and he's just slightly forming his muscular scenario there. And this is where I put the heart. So yeah, that's how I. So yes, that is how I use my forms to create a basic shape, a body shape, and then I erase and perfect, erase and perfect. Now, the next tutorial or presentation, I will show how I drew this from this drawing to this pose. It's very simple, and basically in vector arts, it's so amazing how you can connect the body in basic shapes like geometrical shapes and form them into a pose like this, and how I create that using those little dots and molding it into this format. So you have the calf muscle there, and then you have the thigh there with the connective tissue underneath this whole costume, because figured out, like, I saw different poses in magazines. I went to the Nutcracker last year and I love their magazines, Sandiego Ballet, and I look at the different poses and how the fabric flows with the body structure. So I could have so many pictures, so beautiful, with a female body and the male together. That's what it would look like. Um, Different types of ages, and let me show you here. Oh my gosh, I think is that my friend? Oh, Matt Carney. He is my ballet friend, and he is just an amazing dancer. My goodness. So if you haven't gone and seen the Nutcracker, you need to. It's so beautiful. Beautiful. And as you can see, let me show you here. This is where, with the glare, this is where I get the anatomical poses for the Sakura, because she is a dancer, and the whole storyline revolves around how she met the emperor's prince son. Prince, I didn't name him, but I've got to create the biographies on that for the next volume, Dragonfly Island and Rise of Kitsune. So yeah, this is basically how I created those poses with a simple wood structure, with a simple box like this, and certain little graphs, boxes. And then from that to this. All right. I hope that helps. I hope these drawings help you see how I come up with my poses, or the how I created my structure, the basic structure and development. And then it's so different when you transform it into digital media art. There's a process. There's a process that I use, and I'm very quick with it. And when I want to create a pose anatomically like that. And I think my surgical experience in the medical field helped me as well, because there's so many books on the anatomy of, and when I say anatomy, that means the body of the human being, species, and also with, animals that are kind of human like structure, like, the apes, chimpanzees, monkeys, and things like that. Their hands are very similar. And then even hybrid characters. You got characters out there that, like Mickey Mouse. A mouse does not look like Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. Mickey Mouse has a human figure. But in the cartoon industry, it's three fingers and a thumb. Okay. Anyways, I hope that helps, and I hope that shows you exactly my process of creating my characters. And oh, look at that, battery went down. I hope that helps you see the process. And now this video is way too long, but the next tutorial will be a little bit shorter. That will be posing, and uh, then I'll do more detailed versions of the human anatomy and things like that. When I worked in the medical field, we had to get this book and study the anatomy because of, in surgery, we needed to know exactly what body part we're working on and what the anatomical structure was. So if you're a nurse, if you're a resident doctor, or studying to be a doctor one day, Grey's Anatomy is a great book to study all of the, even from skeletal joints and muscles and things like that, connective tissue, nerves, veins, tendons. Oh my gosh, this book is so detailed. This is the jaw. That's the jaw, the mandibular portion of the face. So yeah, it's just all coming back because we had to study that. Anyways, I hope that you understand. This is part of me sharing what I've done in my past life and how it comes down to cartooning with these structures and teaching this in the school district, elementary, kindergarten to high school. Yeah. So the body is very important when it comes, and balance when it comes to drawing your cartoon character. You could free for all it, and some people could just magically do it and they're very talented, but other people have to have these certain structures. But once it becomes easy for you, then you're just going to whiz by it, and you keep practicing, you're going to whiz by it, because there's so different ways of drawing Snoopy. It's not a normal beagle species of a dog, canine, but Charles Schulz has his way, especially Walt Disney, and Dr. Seuss has his own way and each artist has their own different style and look. So my drawing skills may be basic in the beginning, but just to show you and share with you how I develop my cartoon characters. Anyways, until the next video, see you soon. Stay tuned. Bye, neighbors. Don't forget to subscribe at www.drzhivago.us. And if you're global, come on down and look at my website or just watch my past videos and share, like, and comment. I really appreciate it. It helps support the channel. Also, in my details below, please click on any of the links, especially Amazon, or visit my store and see what you like there. All right. Bye, everyone.